All right, we are live. We are live. We are live. Set this up really quickly. I'm only going to go live for a few minutes, but I did want to did want to start doing live streaming more consistently. I was basically going to record this and post it within a minute anyway, so it's basically the same thing. All right. So Putin making comments after the Soviet Union collapsed, we believed we would quickly join the civilized Western world. Today, it seems there's no civilization there. Yeah, I mean, look, the post Soviet Union collapse was terrible for Russia. Number one, the Western powers had no interest in Russia joining them. They only had interest in turning them into a quasi colony and stripping them of all their wealth. And if you know anything about the collapse, the economy in Russia tanked after the Soviet Union collapsed because suddenly things that were run and owned by the state became privatized. And once they became privatized, they were gobbled up, and goods and services got too expensive for people. So suddenly, like everything under the sun, whether it's school, finding a job, there was no guarantee of a job anymore because it's the free market, right? So now, if you're unemployed, you're unemployed, and the state doesn't care. There was no safety net. It was a total train wreck. Um, and Vladimir Putin has said, in the past that this was one of the, if not the defining moments, not only of his life, but of the whole society over there. So there's no question that he's well aware. And when he's talking about the degradation of society, he's talking about many things. He's talking about the culture. Russia is certainly it's Christian Orthodox. It's a more conservative culture than you have in Western Europe and in the United States. And he's referring to that. He's referring to the fact that economically, if you look at it, Russia is growing and doing much better than Western Europe. Russia is growing. Their economy is in good shape and it's getting better because as BRICS grows, all of the countries in BRICS, especially the ones that are more established like Russia and China, they're going to grow with it. They don't need to trade in dollars. They can trade in rubles. They can trade in yuan. It's good for them. It's good for North Korea. It's good for China. I mean, this is the reality. And all that has happened is this war in Ukraine, which was not started by Russia, by the way. Okay, it was responded to by Russia. I love that commentary. But the war in Ukraine has only helped Russia to get away from the tentacles of the West. It has illuminated the problems of the West, and it has allowed Russia to show the world, hey, if you step away from these pedophiles and these idiots and warmongers and psychopaths, you can live a better life. Meanwhile, Germany and Britain can't wait to arrest you for social media, and their economies are tanking. You have riots in France, the farmers revolting. I mean, it's a total mess. But no, Russia didn't start that war. It's amazing to me that people who can get emotional about Palestine, and I have no issue with that. I think, look, what's happened to the kids there and the innocent people there is important. Not that Israel can't kill terrorists. I think Israel should be able to defend itself against terrorists. I don't think anybody would really deny that. But you have to think bigger picture. Why are there terrorists? What can we do to prevent terrorism from growing? All right, it's an economic response. And then two, when it comes to the people in Palestine, the ones who aren't the terrorists, we don't want to see them hurt. But that empathy is not there. It's not there for Russian-speaking people in the east of Ukraine. That empathy is not there. Why is that? There was a massacre in China committed by the Japanese 80 years ago called the Rape of Nanjing, the massacre in Nanjing. 300,000 people, innocent people, slaughtered brutally. We're not even taught about it, let alone would anybody feel any empathy for them. Why is that? Why is it only empathy for Palestine? And then you realize it's because the people of the West who are executing the crimes in the West are the same people that have psyoped us into believing that when white looking people commit crimes against brown looking people, we get emotional. But if white looking people commit crimes against other white looking people, it's okay. That is the psyop break. And now the West has a problem because the people committing the crime against the brown people are part of their society. So now they have to walk it back. But what about all the children who were slaughtered in Eastern Ukraine? They don't consider that an act of war. They were using tanks. They were using military. Um, they were moving in strategically to kill people. That's not an act of war. So when Russia responds to defend those people, that's considered the act of war. If Crimea votes to leave Ukraine and Russia decides to defend them because they want to leave, is that an act of war? In Western Canada, we have multiple provinces that want to leave Canada. You have Alberta and Saskatchewan that want to leave Canada. If they leave Canada and vote to join the United States or to become independent and request the defense of the United States from Canada, is that an act of war? Is it an act of war if the people of Iceland vote to join the United States and suddenly the army of Denmark comes in and the US has to defend them? Is that an act of war? So there's a lot of people who say they started the war, but they couldn't really wrap their minds around the idea that maybe they were defending people that were helplessly being slaughtered. And this narrative has really gone viral for some reason. You see people say urging Trump to destroy the BBC is unforgivable. Truss, Badenoch, Farage would rather betray their country than offer the BBC or the government their support against narcissistic foreign liar and first of all, first of all, okay, the BBC is paid for by the United States. So we already know that because we saw the Doge leak. The Doge documents and investigation have the proof. Okay, we all saw it as a country. Why are we paying for the BBC? I don't want to hear anybody tell me that the BBC is under attack and the BBC that the president owns the BBC. It's a United States operation. It's not real. It's just propaganda. So if you're going to tell me that, oh, he shouldn't do this to the BBC, my question is, why does the BBC even exist? It's an American broadcasting company. You don't have any right to tell me what should be on the BBC because the BBC is not real. It's fake. And what the hell has the BBC ever done for anybody in Western Europe? What has it done for Britain? All they do is execute the CIA, MI6, whatever, slant of everything in the news. It is not independent. It is not real. Just shut it down. How about all the people that are under attack, quote unquote? Why don't they start their own network? One that the American taxpayer doesn't pay for. Now, I did want to show. I'll get to it. Yep, well, that's big difference right here. Let's go to work. Let's go to war. As the USA is investing in circling Venezuela, China just continues to do its thing. Now, where is that thing with the block? This is a humiliating. Let's see. I'll find it, folks. Yeah, I would love to go to an ACP event. You know, um, the only issue I have is that, like, I guess I don't want to commit and give false committals or false representation to a group that I haven't even met yet, right? So I'm not going to join a group before I've even met the group. Like, I'm not joining an internet party. So I have an interest in meeting people and getting to know them and seeing if it makes sense for me to commit, because if I join, I don't have a ton of free time. So I'm not going to be the best cadre, the best, you know, participant. I readily admit that. I'm not 25 years old with no kids or anything. I'm a grown man. I have a wife, I have kids, I have a life. Okay? So I just don't have a lot of free time. But if I do join, I want to be able to support. I want to pay my dues. I want to go to charity events. Like, I think that stuff is great. And I just think that that's the kind of stuff that should really be open to people, and then you'll find they'll join anyway. But I don't want to commit before I have the opportunity to meet up with people. That's really the main thing. So I think the ACP is doing cool stuff. I just want to meet in person and see it and talk to people, and then also get an idea, like, am I even eligible? Does it make any sense to join? Because I can talk to people about, realistically, what is your schedule like? What is the commitment like? Am I somebody that you would even want? Because for all I know, the ACP might not even want anything to do with me. You know, there are lots of organizations out there, but some of them, they may require more of me than I can give. So that's just something I have to take in mind. This is, by the way, is ridiculous. This woman was sleeping on the train and the cops dragged her off. Why are you bothering people sleeping on the train? It's not illegal to sleep on the train. This is insane. This doesn't make any sense either to me. There was a massive crowd of German Antifa that marched through the streets of Hamburg chanting, "No borders, no nation, stop the deportations." First of all, how is it anti fascist to say that the government should have unfettered, unorganized, totally chaotic immigration where they let strangers into the country that they have no plan for, no support, while the people of the country are suffering? And how is it anti-fascist to say that there's no nations? Like, that's not anti-fascism. Declaring that a country that has a border is fascist. That's totally fraudulent. It's totally fraudulent. I mean, that's just this reeks of paid protesting. Doesn't make any sense at all. You have so many people who are suffering in Germany right now. And I'm not saying that deporting people is the only solution. But if you have somebody who commits a crime, or if you have a country that just doesn't have the support, and Germany they don't have the ability to take people in right now. They're closing factories. They can't even keep their own people employed. Why are you bringing other people in? That tells you there's something fraudulent about that. Yep. Look, ACP, look, they're out there. They're doing good stuff. I hope I can get a chance to meet some of these guys. I also think there are other organizations. I look every yeah, this is the thing I want to talk to. I just want to say this. Every group out there, I know that there's competition, right? I think CPI, Center for Political Innovation, they do amazing stuff too. They have great materials. The people are friendly from what I've seen. Obviously, I'm going to meet them soon. Um, they do a lot of great work. They put out good material. Um, you can interact with them on YouTube before, like you can really get to know them. I think the ACP, some of the charity stuff that they've done, and the commitment across the country to meeting up with some of the workers, the truckers, and stuff. I think that stuff is awesome. And then even like groups like, look, and I know the groups don't all like each other. I understand that. I don't fully understand the rivalries and the differences because I'm a little new to this world, but I certainly understand that there is a difference. But even like the revolutionary communists, well, first of all, it's impressive that they have an international and a domestic, right? So I think it's cool that they've organized. I also want to give them credit for, I think, for some of the folks that put out some of their material. I think that they say some important things. We're not going to agree on everything, okay? We're human beings. Like, I'm sure that they are not huge on Stalin. They seem to be more Trotsky, than Stalin. But certainly they are closer to, what I would be comfortable with than your standard, like, Democrat or Republican or Labor Party or Reform or whatever, or Social Democrats in Germany. I mean, they put out material that even if it's not 100% your take, it is important work, right? It highlights the difference between the sphere that you're in, if you're a revolutionary, versus the rest. And it helps to bring people to the table. So I think that's good stuff. Communist Party USA, look, all these parties, there's something good about all of them. So I think it's important that we kind of support each other a little bit more and be less negative towards each other. Because at the end of the day, we preach about understanding the divide and conquer tactics that are used against the population and to divide the working class. But then we go out and we self-divide the revolutionary movement. You're too Trotsky, you're too Stalin, you're too Mao, you're too this. Yeah, that's the same thing I watched happen to the Libertarian Party. Libertarian Party had a moment, and they blew it. And they blew it because they were too busy arguing over who was more principled. So don't blow it. Now this story. This, to me, is humiliation at its best. So Canada has given up on its Victims of Communism monument. You can't make this stuff up. Victims of Communism monument. After hundreds of the names were shown to be affiliated with Nazi or fascist groups. So just so we understand, they built a monument in Canada to say Victims of Communism. Now this I just couldn't believe. So as they put this monument up, and this is the same country that brought in a Nazi and saluted him in their parliament, right? So the Victims of Communism, they had this monument, but then when people started investigating, well, who are the names that you're putting on the monument? They're all fascists and Nazis. So now the plan is to leave the monument, but get rid of the names. So now you're going to have a monument that says the Victims of Communism with no names. Think about that. Thank you. Thank you. Your stupidity and ignorance has been a big help. Thank you. I mean, does it get any dumber than that? Victim of Communism. Literally, you have a monument that has absolutely no names on it. And because it has no names, you are basically saying that there are no victims. You can't make this stuff up. And it's all because you wanted to pull this grift on the world to say Victims of Communism. Because you think people are so stupid that they're going to not do any research and sit there and go, oh yeah, look at that million. Communism has killed 100 million, trillion, billion people. You got a cold? Communism did it. You had diarrhea last night? Communism did it. Your coffee was cold? Communism did it. Unbelievable. Now, when you blockade a country or sanction a country and people can't get their hands on medication, is that victim of capitalism? When somebody starves or they don't get the medication they need, or is that a victim? Or if the US or another country in the West invades a country because they don't like the political system that they're setting up for themselves, and you as a larger country invade that country and kill a bunch of people, including innocent people, is that a victim of capitalism? No, they'll count that as a victim of communism. So 500,000 here, 3 million there, 20% of a population here, all victims of communism? Really? Huh. Interesting. This is the level that we're working with, folks. This is the level. People are trying to paint, and this is coming from a liberal. I would consider Canada to be very liberal. I mean, I don't think there's a conservative opposition in Canada. I mean, Saskatchewan and Alberta are trying to leave the country because it's so liberal. So a liberal country, the left, okay, a modern left society is mocking communism and pushing lies about communism. What does that tell you? You don't even need the right wing or the fascists. They're not even in the fight. It's all left wing. And if you think about it, look at Europe. Now, Europe is changing. Central and Eastern Europe has changed, and the population and the voting is starting to change. But the current rulers of Western Europe are all liberal. And what do they think? They hate communism. They hate socialism. They hate it. That's your opposition? There's something broken here. And Western people are going to have to wake up. Let's see. New York City in the year 2000. Yeah, I mean, look, before 9/11 there was an innocence and a charm. Also, before this, I mean, the 70s were rough and the 80s were rough, but one thing you got to say is, and it wasn't done in a cleanest way, but I could take the subway in New York and not think, well, I'm probably going to get burned alive. It's a different world. Penn Station was torn down in New York City in the 1960s and replaced with a basketball court. Really makes you think. Well, I mean, look, it's they didn't. Yes, they tore down the Penn Station. They put a basketball court, but it's complicated because they had to move Madison Square Garden multiple times. They have the post office. Yeah, it's a beautiful station. They could have built that station somewhere else. They didn't. You know, it wasn't what the city valued. It wasn't what the people valued. So, unfortunately, it is what it is, right? Uh, Tell me, only Pyongyang has power. Here's what Sinaju Owiha Island on the DPRK looks like last night. Well, I mean, look, there's definitely propaganda against North Korea. North Korea gets sanctioned and they have to struggle to get their hands on the supplies they need to grow, and then people will mock them and say, "See, communism doesn't work." It's like, but they don't have the opportunity to grow the way that they need to grow. They're literally blocked in. So that's not the fault of communism. That's the fault of the countries that are blocking communism. Because if you really think communism is such a failure and is such a joke, why do you feel the need to block it? Why do you feel the need to hold these countries down? Why not just let them do what they want to do, fail, and then you come in and clean it up, right? then you wouldn't even have to have this debate. You wouldn't have to go to war. You wouldn't have to do any of that. North Korea is a country that is just going to absolutely explode economically. Okay, as the BRICS grows, it's going to give them a marketplace, and they have a concerted, supportive culture. They're unified. They're educated, and they are going to compete. Okay, they are going to compete on the global stage. And once the Russians and the Chinese really are able to invest into North Korea, and then North Korea is able to sell into the BRICS markets, I mean, it is going to be huge. They are going to be like another Vietnam. Okay, they really are. They're going to be like another Vietnam. So I think there's just tremendous potential here for North Korea. In Defense of Communism posted, is studying Lenin prohibited in Russia? Military court jails members of Marxist study group. No, I didn't think that. I need to understand the details here because I don't I don't think that's the case. I've never heard that before. They have statues of Lenin. Who would you rather have leading the party in 2028? Vance or Rubio? I mean, if you're going to make me pick, I'd probably say Vance because I think he's less imperialist. Because I think Rubio is the one pushing the Venezuela thing. Vance seems to be focused a little bit more on economics, and technology. I don't know. I mean, I don't trust it. I don't trust anybody, frankly. I mean, that's the real answer. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust the Republicans. I don't trust the Democrats. Um, so if you're forcing me to pick, if this is it, okay, which it's not the case, but I'll play along. I think Vance would be the answer because Vance is not the one pushing the war on Venezuela. So they're both in favor of all Israeli action. They're both in favor of bombing Iran, I believe, but they're both aggressive against China, which is stupid. There's a lot of stupidity, but when it comes to Venezuela, I think that's more Rubio than Vance. So I would lean Vance on that one, but I don't know. Honestly, it's a tough call. I think they're probably in lockstep, but that's what it is. The EU's problem isn't Belgium; it's Trump. No, Kirill Dmitriev is 100% right. Dmitriev, he's 100% right. The EU's problem is the EU. Blaming Trump for your problems as the European Union is so lazy. It's so lazy. So you think about it. What they're saying is that if there was an American president who was in favor of the war and didn't want to negotiate peace, if there was an American president who would just cover all the bills for NATO, if there was an American president that would never question any trade deals ever, okay? If there was an American president that went along with censorship in the United Kingdom, if there was an American president that went along with censorship and mass migration in Europe and in the United States, if there was an American president that said, we can't support our own people, our capitalist system is falling apart, but we're going to import millions of people to play political games and to make sure rich people have cheap labor. If there was an American president that did those things, then the EU wouldn't have a problem. But they think that they have a problem because Trump questioned some of their stuff. That's the divisions of the ruling class at work here, folks. Western Europe is ruled by the old power. It's ruled by the old banking Western power. It's all part of one state, one governing body. And the United States is quasi-ruled by that group. It's owned by that group, but it's not ruled by that group. I think that's probably the best distinction. So think of Donald Trump as the general manager of the United States. And his power structure and his group have slightly different philosophy and a different goal than the ownership. The ownership is the same ownership as the ownership of Britain, France, Germany, Belgium, etc. So that's the conflict at play here. And that's why there's room in the general manager's office for Russia and China to a degree. But there's no room in the ownership's office for those countries. And if the ownership is able to get rid of the general manager and bring in a new general manager, you will see a more in line political foreign policy. And that's why Western Europe has a problem with Trump. And I have to get going. I have to get to work. Um, I'll pick up this work a little bit later, but I did just want to do a quick live stream and broadcast to go over these couple things here. We'll see if later today or tomorrow if I can revisit. I'll probably try to get back on and do something later, talk about some other stuff, but I did want to talk about the Canadian monument to the victims of communism and the hypocrisy and the nonsense there, and there's a lot going on. We're living in a very interesting time where we can share information so rapidly that history is unfolding live in front of your face. And we didn't even talk about the Brown University shooter or the Australian shooting or any of that stuff. We can get to that a little bit later. But, that's it for now. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do this for free. I do this on my own accord. I'm not looking for money, but I do want to push it in the algorithm so that I can grow the channel and grow the message. Peace to everybody, and thank you very much. And happy holidays. If you don't get to hear my voice before all the major holidays, so appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much.